All right. Hello, everyone, on this beautiful Sunday afternoon. I'm glad that you could join us for our session of cooking with Chef Stevie. We had some technical difficulties, but we are back. And so without further ado, I'm going to ask you to like this live and share it with your friends. We're on Twitter, we're on YouTube, we're on Instagram. So hopefully you can join us on one of those platforms. And so again, just ask you to like and share. So I'm just going to get right on into it and introduce our guest, who is, again, Chef Stevie. And Chef Stevie is a graduate of Walnut Hill College in Philadelphia. Teaching the art of cooking is one of her passions, as food brings people together and builds relationships, according to her, and the work that she does. And even after 20 years, she is still excited about exploring different cuisines. She has taught in community college community cooking demos, individual and family classes. And in addition to her classes and demonstrations, she loves working as a private chef of small, intimate gatherings, and even had the pleasure of learning molecular gastronomy. I hope I'm saying that right. Am I saying that right?
It's pretty close. Gastronomy.
Yeah, there it is. Hey. And cooking sous vide. Is that sous vide?
Yes, you got that perfect.
All right, got that one right. When raising chickens and enjoying nature. And so welcome again, Chef Stevie. I'm so glad to have you with us. So let's talk a little bit about you as a chef and what brought you to becoming a chef. Why did you choose that as a career?
Well, my mom worked at Marriott Corporation when I was a kid, and she worked in the kitchen. So when I was a little kid, I'd be able to go into the commercial kitchen and see all the chefs in white with their hats, and you can smell all the wonderful smells, and everyone was so busy doing stuff. And then I'd be able to taste certain things that they had and see all the desserts, and it just really made me excited, and it made me really happy. And as I got older, in some of my entrepreneurial things, like I had a little popcorn stand. So instead of selling lemonade, I sold popcorn. So I've been cooking since like 7.
Oh,
and
wow.
Cooking food for myself, cooking little things for my friends. And then right out of high school, I went into culinary school. And I was one of the younger graduates of my class. And I've just been cooking all over the world ever since.
So what types of cuisines do you cook, or do you specialize in, or is it anything in particular, or?
I don't think I love just things that taste good, right? Like that's the most important, is like the flavor profile. But right now I'm teaching French, Italian, Mediterranean, Middle Eastern, Indian. So I really do like ethnic flavors, but I think I get really excited about fresh things. So like anything that I can produce and that I can sort of make something amazing out of it, that's kind of what I get excited about. But I think French currently, but generally I really love Italian food.
Okay, I like Italian food sometimes. I tend to like spicy cuisines, things that have a little flavor to them. Now, you're located in Alta Vista, Virginia right now, right?
Yes, and I teach online classes only. Of course, we're dealing with what we're dealing with, but I've been doing online classes for 3 or 4 years now, and I really enjoy it. I have regular students that meet with every week, and then I also work with corporations, families, couples, ladies' nights, groups, just have a lot of fun. And all the classes are just like, I just love people too. So being a people person and also loving food is great when you're doing like this type of work.
All right, cool. So I'm excited to see what you're going to cook for us today. So what are you going to cook for us?
Okay, so I'm doing something that I've been wanting to try because I haven't done it in a long time. So I'm doing a stuffed flank steak, and I'm stuffing it with spinach and extra sharp cheddar cheese, pepperoni, and then sun-dried, well, actually dried tomatoes that I grew this year. I grow a nice sized garden. I have pear trees, I have fig trees, a lot of different fruit trees. And I decided to try my hand at growing a specialty, sort of like heirloom tomato. And so I'm going to incorporate that in as well. So things from my garden would be the tomatoes and fresh basil that I use. So I'm super excited.
On over to you, and you can start the process of doing that, and take it away.
Okay, sounds great. Okay, so first thing we need to do is, okay, so if I was cooking anything else other than this dish, I would start with that first. You don't want to have any sort of cross-contamination. So once you start working with meat, you have to either switch out your cutting board and your knives, and then make sure your area is sanitary. So that's first. Safety first. So here is a flank steak, something that you could get at Sam's or Walmart. And what I'm going to do is you'll have sort of a thicker end, and then you'll have like a thinner piece. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of cut that off because it's a little too thin to work with.
That's a big piece of steak.
Yeah, flank steak is great. It used to be like an offcut, so it used to be a little less expensive. Now it's like a favorite. What I love about flank steak is it has a very, very meaty flavor. So if you're looking for something that tastes like meat, flank steak is your cut. And it's also very versatile. I'm going to be grilling it today. So it does really well with the grill. It does very well with high heats. As you can see, it has very little fat, but it has some really nice marbling, which is also very important. So yeah, this is a beautiful piece of meat, by the way. So what I'm going to do is kind of cut like, I'm going to try to do a butterfly, which I'm sort of going to try to open it up a bit. Or you can also make a pocket. So either way works. And I'm using a boning knife. And then I'm going to make my sort of initial cut kind of toward the middle. I'm going to see where my knife is. Okay, and then now you want to be really careful. If you're not very comfortable with knives and you're trying to do this, you want to make sure you have like a towel or something. And then also you want to make sure that the knife is angled downward. So if your hand is flat and the knife is this way, you have a less opportunity to cut yourself.
Okay.
And that's important because that's no fun. So, and I did cut that. What was that, Leslie?
I said I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah, this is a great dish, but it is, it's something you have to sort of be careful. So anyway, I've just gone ahead and you see I have a nice pocket. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to sort of use that pocket as my guide to getting in there. So there we go. And then I'm going to use the tip of the knife. Boning knives are great, but they're flexible. And then you can just open it up and cut just like that. And this way you can sort of see what you're doing. And then also it gives you a little bit more control over where you're going with the knife. So I'm gonna go in here and see where I am. Okay. And yeah, I love flank steak. When I was in culinary school, they fed it to us like every day. It was like this, it must have been reasonably priced back then. So, cause we got it a lot. So we had a lot of fun figuring out what we're gonna make with flank steak every day. Okay, so once you have it a little bit more open, and you can use any knife, just take your time. I wanted to do this on camera because it is a little bit more difficult, but it is also relatively easy. Once you have that cut, it's really easy to sort of just take kind of gingerly in there and then make sure you're cutting through. And then, yeah, so I got a little bit more to cut, as you can see. What I'm also doing, which is sort of off camera, is I'm soaking some toothpicks because I'm going to have to use those to put the steak back together.
Okay.
You can also use cooking twine.
Cooking
Like something that
twine.
you use, cooking twine, or I've also recently seen some sort of like rubberized heat-proof bands on Amazon that I was kind of looking at. So there you go. We have it pretty much open. It looks pretty good. I'm not going to worry about it. It doesn't have to be perfect. You just want it to make sure that you have a good opening here. Let me get down here a bit. And then I'm just going to cut out some of the extra thickness in the middle because there we go. Okay, great. Now what I'm going to do is salt. You can use kosher salt here. I'm just using regular sea salt. And you want to be somewhat generous because you're also going to be seasoning the other ingredients that are going to go in here. So you want to make sure that it has enough salt. You don't really want people to have to salt food at the table. I mean, some people like things a little bit more salty, but if you salt kind of through the process, you shouldn't have to really do too much salting at the table. Now, this is a little bit lazy, but fresh pepper is best. And so freshly ground pepper is best. You get the full flavor of the pepper. So I cheat and use the thing. So that's fresh pepper. And then also I have some fresh chopped garlic. I'm gonna sprinkle that in there a bit. I like garlic, so it's gonna be a little bit heavy, but you know, whatever works for you. Gives such a nice flavor. Okay. And then the next thing I'm going to do is, what I do is I grow a whole bunch of basil. I grow 2 or 3 different kinds. Like I'll grow like a chocolate basil and a lemon basil. And then this is just plain Italian basil. And then I grow it. And then after I harvest, I puree it with a little bit of olive oil and a teeny bit of salt. And then I freeze it in ice cubes. That way I have fresh basil all year.
Oh, so you grow your own basil?
So I grow my own basil. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I grow a couple of different varieties. And so this is my fresh basil from the garden. Okay, there we go. I'm gonna rinse my hands.
What else?
And I'm gonna be using just grow. Let's see, this year I grew 2 different types of watermelon. These big beasts, like 30-pound, called Georgia rattlesnake. And then these cute little petite ones called crimson sweet. That were these cute little ball-shaped watermelons. Cantaloupes, tomatillos, tomatoes, purple peppers, which I'll be showing you a little bit later. Well, actually, I can show it to you right now. It's this. I don't know how well you can see it, but it's a dark purple green pepper. Well, I guess it's not a green pepper because it's purple. I grow these. And next year, I'm going to start growing mushrooms. So I have a pretty full garden. What else did I grow? Oh, carrots, rainbow colored carrots.
And you have chickens. And what else do you have?
Okay. That's all for the animals because, you know, I can't, there's only so much a girl can do, but yeah, that's all for the animals.
Okay.
But I do want a little baby goat and maybe a pig. So we'll have to see about that. So right now, I just went ahead and did the basil and the garlic, and I covered it with pepperoni because who doesn't like pepperoni? And then I'm also going to put in here, kind of toward the middle, is this is called Seriously Sharp cheddar cheese. I love sharp cheddar cheese. I don't like mild. I like extra, extra sharp. It's part of the aging process. And you get a really full flavored, sharp, creamy cheese that I think is just really amazing. You can also do mozzarella. So that is lovely. And then I am going to chop up a bit of spinach. Now this is going in the meat, so it's okay, because I'm going to make sure that the meat is cooked to temperature. And then I'm doing, which is called a chiffonade, which is kind of like you take it and you roll the leaves on top of each other, and then you just slice. So I'm doing a quick chiffonade of the spinach, and that's gonna go right inside.
Chiffonade. Okay, I got it. Let me write that down.
Yeah, they also use it a lot for basil, because if you cut basil like you cut other herbs, you have a tendency to bruise it.
Okay.
And you don't want bruised basil because it turns it black. So that actually looks pretty good. I don't want this to be too thick. Okay, and then the last thing I think I'm putting in here is the tomatoes from my garden that I dried. I have a dehydrator, so they're gonna be intensely flavored. You can also use sun-dried tomatoes for this as well.
Okay. Man,
and
that
as
looks...
you see, I'm trying to, yeah, no, and it's like, it's quick. And, you can use fresh basil if you don't have, the basil that I use. It'll turn out really great. Okay, so this part is the part that's a little bit, so let's go. We're gonna try to roll this sucker. Okay. You're gonna start out. All right. Okay. Then try to get it nice and tight. And then I'm going to start using these toothpicks to sort of adhere it. Make sure you let the toothpick stick out a little bit. You don't want them to get lost in the meat. Okay. That looks pretty good.
Yeah, that looks delicious.
And this will be great whole. I'm actually going to cut servings, but you can put this thing whole onto a hot grill and just grill it. I would definitely make sure I pre-oil, because it is going to start oozing out cheese and all kinds of other good things, but okay. Let's see. Okay. So I'm going to make, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 pieces that we're going to cook up. Okay. So once this is kind of sealed somewhat, I'm going to put another 10 here. We're going to cut, I don't know, see, I'm going to make a couple of cuts. And I'm cutting sort of between the toothpicks so that you get a serving, but also it'll keep the pieces together. Okay. There we go. And then I'm also going to just cut off that little extra meat there because it's unnecessary. And there we go. I'm going to make maybe one more cut. These are about 4 ounces, which is a traditional serving, a good size serving. Okay, and then if you need some more, there we go.
I might have to take a drive down that Alta Vista.
Yeah, I do classes at the local library, or I have done in the past, and hopefully I'll get back to that once we get some normality back in our lives. Okay, and then of course, if any of these you need an extra couple of toothpicks, you just go ahead and put those in. And then let's see. Okay, so that's basically it. It looks like this will be serving for maybe 4, maybe 5, depending on how many people are eating. So there we go. That looks pretty good. Now I'm gonna wash my hands. Hopefully I don't disappear too far off the screen. I'm gonna wash my hands and get a little serving plate, and then I'm gonna get the induction burner, and we're gonna start searing these off on a grill pan.
Okay. Do it.
Yeah. And then I'm gonna be serving this with fancy pasta, Alfredo. So everybody loves Alfredo. It's really easy to make. So I figured that would be something fun I could do.
Okay.
So, Alfredo from scratch is amazing. Okay, I don't want to touch raw meat anymore. So I'm gonna just use the tongs. There we go. And anytime you're using a cutting board, you should always have a wet towel under it. What that does, it prevents the cutting board from moving around, which is also another safety, and that's a pro tip. And of course, cleaning. Being sanitary is really important in the kitchen.
Absolutely, especially now.
Especially now. Okay, so I'm going to turn this on. This is an induction burner. Love these. They're a little noisy, but I think we'll be all right. I'm going to preheat the oven to about 425. We're going to get that started now because it takes about 10 minutes. And then I'm also going to turn on the water to get ready for the pasta. And you want to make sure that you salt your water a little bit more than you think. The pasta has like no salt, very little salt in it, and almost no flavor. And even though we're going to be cooking it with the Alfredo sauce, actually it's a mushroom Alfredo, we want to make sure that the pasta develops a little bit of salt to give it a little bit of flavor, because otherwise it'll be a little flat. Okay.
What kind of pasta are you using?
Okay, so I got this pasta from Trader Joe's because I love Trader Joe's. So it's this cute little curly, it kind of looks like little bits of feta cheese, looks like little tiny bits of lasagna pasta with the ridges kind of rolled up. So it looks like, what I'm thinking about those things, those seashells. It kind of looks like seashells.
Okay.
And it's called gigli pasta. But anyway, it's really cute, and it's something you don't see every day. So, and it's organic. Who doesn't love organic? Okay, so.
Was it on sale?
I don't know if Trader Joe's puts things on sale, but it probably wasn't that expensive. Okay, so I'm using a convection oven, but you don't need to have a convection oven. What a convection oven does is it circulates the air around the chamber. And what that does is it creates an atmosphere where everything can brown correctly and heats at a more equal way, instead of having like hot spots in the oven. Whew, this sucker weighs like 20 pounds easy.
Oh, wow.
Whew. But it is beautiful. Okay. So, let's see. Okay, so while we're getting this together, I can start working on just letting you know about what we're going to do with the mushroom Alfredo. So let's put this here. And also, since I have so much great organic spinach, I might throw that in there as well. It's going to be really good. So an Alfredo sauce is basically, as we all know, a cream sauce. The base of that is going to be cream as well as butter, a little bit of butter, cream, and Parmesan cheese. I'm going to bring it up a notch by adding a little bit of ricotta. That gives it a little bit more creaminess and a little bit more depth of flavor. Because when you're cooking a lot, what you're trying to do is create layers of flavor. If you taste something and you're like, oh, it tastes okay, it's probably because it's one note. Nobody likes one note. When you're cooking for other people, you want to make sure that the food has had a chance to sort of develop a lot of flavors, where like you get a little bit here, you get a little bit here, and everything sort of just comes together. So,
like jazz. Sounds like jazz music, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think that's one of the reasons why I love it. I also teach baking classes. So we bake a lot of cakes and pastries and pies and creme brulee, which is one of my favorite French desserts. It's basically a baked custard that you blowtorch sugar on top of. It's one of my absolute favorites. We actually did that 2 weeks ago, and my student was like, oh my God, this is the best thing ever. So while our pan is heating up, because this is cast iron, it's going to take a few minutes, as well as the oven. I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit of salting, a little bit of pepper on the outside of the meat.
Okay.
And some of these pieces are pretty thick, and we just want to make sure that there's enough flavor. I mean, honestly, now clearly there is a point where it's too much salt, but honestly, most people just don't season their food enough. Like, it needs just a little bit more of something. So let's see. Okay, it's getting hot. I don't think I've ever used this pan on the induction stove, but it should work because it's cast iron. Induction stoves only work with like metal, certain metals. So we'll see how this goes. It is heating up, so that's good. Another thing, before we put our steak in here, this pan has to be hot. It's going to be smoking. That's another pro tip. A lot of people start in cold pans. You never, ever, ever want to try to cook meat in a cold pan. You don't want to cook anything in a cold pan. A lot of things my students struggle with is meat sticking. I use stainless steel for the classes, and I don't use nonstick. If I was cooking eggs or certain things like that, I would probably use nonstick because eggs, you know, and cheese and things like that are going to stick. But pretty much anything else, as long as you have a really white hot pan and you put your protein in here. So the method is hot pan, then you add your oil, hot oil, and then you add whatever your protein is.
Okay, I got it.
Yep. Yeah, and that's a small tip, but it makes big, because a lot of people are like, oh my God, my food's always sticking, and then it does, it kind of ruins it. And again, if the pan is hot and the oil is hot, when the food is ready, it will self-release from the pan. So if you're struggling to get a piece of meat to turn when you're ready to turn it, it's probably not ready to turn.
So how long should we allow it to warm up? I mean, what?
Oh, this pan is smoking. You probably can't see it, and this is just the very beginning, but the pan needs to be smoking. I mean, not like, you know, 4-alarm fire, but it needs to have a little bit of white, wispy smoke sort of coming up off of it, which this is doing because I turned it up to 430. Now, I'm not cooking it on 430. I'm going to turn it down, and I also don't want my smoke detectors to go off, which they still might nevertheless. Let's see. I'm going to turn on my exhaust. Okay, so you might not see it, but it's smoking a bit. As soon as I add my oil, it's going to get really shiny. I'm going to be using vegetable oil because it has a higher heat temperature than olive oil.
Okay.
Put a little bit in the pan, and I'm going to put a little bit on the steak. And you can probably, I don't know if you can see it, but it's smoking a bit right now. And it's very important that the pan is hot. So I'm going to go ahead and turn on the boiling water. Dry pasta takes about 9 minutes to cook. If you're going to be putting it in a sauce, you need to undercook it a little bit so you can still get it al dente. So I'm going to be cooking the pasta for about 7-8 minutes. And that'll also give me some time to make the sauce. Okay, so my pan is smoking. Can you see it, Leslie? Oh, your audio is off. Your mic is off.
I can see it.
Oh, okay, you're back. Okay, great. So that's, once it starts smoking, it goes in. And you want to hear that crackle. Like, that's very important. I did turn the oven on because what you do in restaurants is we start the food on the stove, but we almost always finish everything, all the proteins in the oven. It's really difficult to cook a meat to the right temperature on the stove.
Okay. So how long do we allow it to, are you going to cook it in the stove as well this time?
Yes. And it's
Okay.
going to cook for about You want this to be about medium. Now, mind you, I know a lot of folks like their meat cooked well done, but it's unnecessary to really overcook it. It starts to get really dry. And you don't want to eat anything dry. It just really takes away from the flavor of the meat if it's too dry. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just turn this once, and I just really want to get some really nice grill marks. So I'm going to let it go for a little bit and see how we do. And then, as you know, I got a pot on that's going to cook the pasta, and I'm also going to get another pot out to start the sauce. Which I'm also going to cook on the induction stove. But I wish you guys could be here. It smells really good. And another pro tip.
I'll use my imagination. Using my imagination.
Another pro tip is if you look, you probably can't see it because the camera's too far. But once the bottom starts to change color, so it starts to change from like a red color to a gray color, then you know you can check it and see if it's ready to turn. And there we go. That one was ready. I don't see any other. Okay, so that's ready. It's gonna be in a, well, we're waiting for the oven to preheat, but it's gonna be in about a 425 oven. I'm gonna probably cook it for 10 or 15 minutes. If you're using a regular oven, you probably wanna cook it somewhere between 15 to 20 minutes. And that also depends on how thick it is. These are about 4 ounces.
So are you cooking them rare? I mean, how well?
The temperature is going to be about medium for me.
Okay.
If you want to cook them, to like I don't know, like well, not medium, like not well done, but like well, where there's no pink, then you could cook it a little bit longer, like 25 minutes. Also, if you want to lessen your time, you can also cover it with a little bit of aluminum foil. And right now, I just want to get some grill marks, basically, and then also searing it. Really, what it does is it sears off the sides and it keeps all the juices in. So that's why that's why we always sear meats before we put it in the oven. It gives it color, which is a Maillard reaction, which is the sugars in the meat caramelizing with the heat. I'm going to turn this up a bit. It smells so good. And the cheese is getting all melty. This is going to be great. Let's see about this. Let's see. Yeah, it says on the directions 5 to 7 minutes. So I'm going to cook the pasta about 5 minutes.
Okay. Al dente.
Al dente. That's important too, because it really just, texture is also a big part of food too. People don't realize. Like if you want something is like crunchy or it has sort of like a creaminess or a mouthfeel, those sensations are really important to enjoying a really good meal. I can smell the cheese melting over here. So it's kind of like a steak kind of grilled cheese thing going on here. Okay, that looks good. Okay.
Mm.
Okay, that looks lovely.
Now
Okay,
you
I'm
know,
gonna bring this.
I just celebrated my birthday on Friday.
Wow, well, happy belated birthday.
Thank you.
I'm gonna share your age with you. I mean, you look amazing, however old you are, because black don't crack anyway.
Yeah, I look like no child left behind. I'm older than much
Well, I
older
was
than
kind of afraid to put that thing on there. Yeah, you know, you look great. Let's see. Okay, so my oven's not ready yet, so we're just going to put that aside for right now, and we're going to get started on the Alfredo sauce. Alfredo, of course, we all love Alfredo. This is a really different way of serving it because it's not like with chicken, it's with steak. And steak and cream and mushrooms, all those things go really, really well together.
Okay.
Let's see. I'm just grabbing a bit of butter and I'm heating up our pan. The first thing we're going to do is saute some really beautiful portobello, little baby bellas is what they're called, mushrooms. They cost a little bit more than white mushrooms, but not that much more. And you get a little bit more flavor here. And let's see. And so I'm just gonna wait, again, waiting for my pan to get hot. This is probably like a medium high I have going on here, like it's 365. And as soon as that starts happening, I'm gonna go ahead and start sauteing our mushrooms. And I'm gonna get a little bit more garlic from the fridge. I'm dehydrating this week, so I have a whole bunch of chopped garlic ready to go into the dehydrator.
So you're dehydrating your vegetables. You're not personally dehydrating. I just want to make sure I understand.
No, I'm not. I drink a ton of water, by the way. I tell you, the water here in Alta Vista is so, so tasty. I don't know if it's just my house, but I love it. The flavor is just absolutely amazing. Like people come to my house and they're like, oh my God, your water is so good. And I'm like, yeah, I know. When I go into Lynchburg, I can't even drink the water. I'm like, oh, this kind of tastes a little off. I don't know. But I drink a lot of this good country well water.
Yeah, I'll have to try the water in Alta Vista the next time I'm there.
Yeah, I mean, you are definitely invited to the casa. So if you want to come over one day, we can make some margaritas or something. That'll just be great too. I love Alta Vista. I don't know if it's the country living or the people are really great. Okay, so this is getting a little hot. So I'm gonna go ahead. I can tell because it's a little bit steamy. It's smoking a little bit. Ooh. And a little bit of salt in there. You see the smoke now.
I do. Okay,
and this is called a saute. And saute, okay, I'm pretty sure the alarm is gonna go off. Sauteing is a French word, and it means to cook quickly over high heat.
Okay.
So anyway, we want to give a nice sear on these mushrooms. You can eat mushrooms raw, but you never really want to eat them raw because all the nutritional value of the mushrooms come out during the cooking process.
Oh, well, I didn't know that.
Yes, that's something that people don't know. You don't really want to eat mushrooms raw. And what I also love about mushrooms is they have they're really good medicine for the body. The mycelium.
What kind of mushrooms do you typically cook with? What do you recommend? Or does it depend on the dish?
Well, that's why I'm going to start growing mushrooms. In this area, we're very, very limited to what we can get in the supermarket. So basically, the only thing I've found is these, which are baby bellas, white mushrooms, which are fine, but white mushrooms are really, really vanilla and have absolutely no flavor. So and of course it's perfectly cooked, it's not like burnt or brown or anything. What we're doing now is we're allowing the mushrooms to sweat. And so we're sweating the mushrooms, that's pulling out all of the water. That water is going to reduce and really intensify the mushroom flavor.
Okay.
And I'm gonna put this back up. So this is gonna be back up to a medium high, about 350. It would be like a 6 or a 7 if you were cooking it on like an electric stove.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so my pasta's going in. And my steak is going in. And I'm gonna set a timer for 5 minutes. Start. Okay.
So are you
Leslie,
staying pretty busy right now?
What was that?
Are you staying busy right now with cooking for families and yeah?
Yes, I really am. I'm doing three, 4 classes a week. I don't really want to do more than that because there is like prep associated with it, cleaning it up between each class. But what I do, my special niche is I customize the classes toward the needs of the student. So all my classes, I take the time to talk over like what my student wants to learn, what they want to get out of it, their goals at the end, like what does it look like at the end for you? And that way they can legitimately get what they came for. So all my classes are individual and customized.
Oh, wow, that's great. So can anyone take a class from you? Is that how that works? Can anyone sign up to take a class?
Yes, anyone can sign up to take a class with me. I do have a website, and then if you did a little bit of Googling, you'll find me, you'll find some of my past community outreach classes that I do. I think it's really important to give back to the community. So that's why I do a lot of the community outreach. Of course, now these days it looks a little different.
Right.
But I will get back to it as soon as I can. But I'm going to start trying to do more sort of like free classes online.
So yeah, I added, if you look at, for those who are tuning in, I added Chef Stevie's website so you can take a look at her offerings and what types of cooking services, you know, classes or individualized meals, family meals, all of those things. You can check her out. So when you're cooking for other people, do you have, I mean, how do you feel about cooking for yourself? Do you get tired or?
Well, the good thing is I get to eat the food that I make, and I also share it with my friends and my family.
Okay.
My family has lived in this area for over 100 years. So that's one of the reasons why I moved back here, because my family is definitely a big part of this community. Mm-hmm. And it's great. There's cookouts. I'm surrounded by cousins, and I mean, you know, second cousins or third cousins or fourth cousins or what have you. Or people, they're like, oh yeah, our grandmothers were sisters or whatever. So it's really awesome. So yeah, I share.
Okay. Do you incorporate like some of what you learned growing up into your cooking style? I mean, from whoever did the most cooking at home?
Which was me. I did most of the cooking. My mom worked, and then she would cook, but I wasn't a big fan of her cooking. Okay, guys, you see me do this twice. This is garlic that I'm putting in. Alfredo is a garlic cream sauce. So I want to make sure you taste the garlic. So okay. I probably end up putting about, I don't know, 2 tablespoons of garlic in here.
Yummy, I love garlic.
Yes, and it's going to be important. So this is the mushrooms that I sweated. 5 minutes on the pasta, so I'm going to go back and check on that. And then we're going to finish up the cream sauce. And then we're just ready to plate in about, I don't know, probably about less than 10 minutes.
Okay.
already tell. So I'm stirring the pasta to make sure it's ready to go. I set a 5-minute timer. It's almost 5 minutes. So I'm gonna let it cook a little bit longer, and then I'm gonna taste the piece and see what kind of texture I'm dealing with. You wanna taste it to see how close it is to al dente. Before you, I'm gonna rinse off the starch. What I also like about this pasta is if you're gonna do a really creamy, delicious sauce like this with ricotta and Parmigiano, you wanna make sure that the pasta has some nooks and crannies to hide the sauce when you're eating it. Sort of like, elbow pasta when you make mac and cheese.
So just for those who are following along, again, the ingredients for the Alfredo sauce is?
It's going to be, this is a mushroom Alfredo. It's going to be a garlic, and I'm putting in heavy cream right now.
Okay.
So this is sauteed baby bella mushrooms, a good 2 tablespoons of garlic, if not a little bit more. and then I cook the mushrooms in butter. And then I let them cook. I let them release that good mushroom juice. I let that reduce, kind of concentrate the mushroom flavor. Right now I'm adding heavy cream. I'm gonna allow that to reduce by 1/4. You can use thickeners such as like flour or cornstarch to thicken this up, because you really wanna get a certain type of mouthfeel. This is decadent already, but if your sauce is too thin, like right now, it's very thin. You wanna let your sauce have a little bit of body. And the only way you're gonna do that is by letting the cream reduce a little bit.
Okay.
So I'm gonna actually turn up this because we want it to boil. You also wanna keep an eye on it though. You don't want it to boil over. And then I'm gonna add, while this is cooking, I'm gonna go ahead and add some Parmesan cheese and a little bit of ricotta. Okay. So I'm gonna taste the pasta and see where we are.
Okay.
The reason why you wanna undercook the pasta is that we're gonna add it to the sauce at one point, and if you've already cooked it all the way done, when you add it to the sauce, it's gonna overcook. Okay, that's perfect. I'm just putting it in a strainer and keeping an eye on the sauce, because as you know, cream always bubbles over. Well, cream always wants to bubble over.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm gonna add Parmesan cheese, probably like about 1/4 to 1/2 cup. This will also add a little bit of texture to the sauce. Okay, that's looking pretty good. We're gonna continue to let this reduce. I'm gonna add a little bit of butter. Well, about a tablespoon more of butter. There we go. That'll give us that kind of really creamy mouthfeel that we're looking for. And then I'm just gonna go put a little bit of ricotta cheese and let it reduce. And then I'm gonna check on the meat. I love ricotta. I know a lot of people only get it if they're making lasagna, but ricotta itself makes an excellent cream sauce. So that's about 2 tablespoons of ricotta cheese, whole milk ricotta.
Do you have any suggestions for those who may be lactose intolerant?
I'm lactose intolerant. So you can also use whole milk and just reduce it really well.
Okay.
Most people who are intolerant can still have Parmigiano cheese because it's aged. Usually if the cheese is aged over a year, 18 months, 12 months, you can digest it pretty good because the lactose has reduced significantly. Or you can do what I do, which is take the dairy lactose pills when you're enjoying your heavy cream Alfredo. Okay, so I want to show you the consistency of this sauce. Remember how earlier it was kind of thin, it kind of looked like liquid. You put a spoon in here and you take your finger. If you can put your finger through a spoon and you can still see the sauce on either sides of the spoon, that's called nappe. That's how you know your sauce is ready.
Nappe.
Nappe, yes. Okay,
French?
and then so I say it is French, yeah. All countries have their own cuisine, but the creme de la creme, of course, in French, is French cuisine. So that's our basis when you're in culinary school. Okay, y'all. Let me go ahead and add this beautiful pasta. And then I'm going to add a little bit of fresh spinach. And then I'm going to stir. This is organic spinach. This gives it a little bit of color. I was gonna add a little bit of parsley, which will also give it some green color, but I love spinach. And I also love sneaking in vegetables where you don't expect it. Mm-hmm. And the heat of the sauce and the pasta will just wilt the spinach just so. So that's why we didn't cook it. And then I would add just a little pinch of salt because you have to season all the ingredients separately. You can also add sun-dried tomatoes to this. So I'm going to move this out of the way, and then we're going to be moving towards plating everything up.
Okay.
And Leslie, I will give you the recipe for this.
Okay.
So that you can put it on your page. And if folks wanted to give it a try, they could.
I may give
Being
it
a chef in, what was that, Leslie?
I may give it a try.
You should. It's easier. Now, mind you, we've been chatting. I think you can do this in about 45 minutes to an hour.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
Wow.
Okay, so can you see me? I'm pressing on the meat. You can tell how done it is by how much resistance you get. So if you get a little bit of resistance and it's like soft, then it has a little bit more space to cook. If there's no resistance, then you know it's pretty much cooked through.
Okay.
And this is pretty much cooked through. I'm gonna turn off the oven. What I love about being a chef is my ability. I think one of the funner things about being a chef is my creativity. I can just think of something and then come into the kitchen and create these amazing dishes.
Right. I mean, you're an artist to some degree. You're creating, right?
Honestly, I definitely consider myself a creative for sure. Oh, this looks so pretty. I hope I'll get a chance to show you. So I was sort of thinking mac and cheese, and I was like, no, we're not going to do mac and cheese because everybody does mac and cheese, but we'll do something similar, but different. Okay. Let's see. I'm going to use a fresh pair of tongs because I want to make sure I'm not going to cross-contaminate. You want to take the pick out, and then let's see. I'm going to finish this with a few homegrown, dehydrated Bear Creek tomatoes. So this is the final dish. Let's see if I can. It's about to zoom crazy, so bear with me. Oh.
Oh, that looks delicious. Oh my gosh, my mouth is watering.
And there you go. So this is pepperoni and cheddar stuffed flank steak.
Yummy.
Let's do this. There you go. So pepperoni and sharp cheddar cheese stuffed flank steak with a mushroom and spinach Alfredo.
Yummy. That looks delicious. Oh my gosh.
I can't wait to eat it.
Well, I really appreciate you being with us today. And just if someone wants to contact you, how would they get in contact with you?
Well, I do have a page on Facebook. What'd you say?
Besides the website?
I do have besides the website. Yeah, so you can find me on Facebook, Cooking with Chef Stevie. And then if you want to see some of the stuff that I've done over the past kind of like 6 months while we've been in quarantine, you can go to my Instagram, which is Cooking with Chef Stevie. And then my phone number is 434-260-2881. And you can leave a message anytime. And that's pretty much it. And if you want to send me an email, it's cookingwithchefstevie@gmail.com. So I try to make it as easy to find me as possible.
Well, I really appreciate you sharing your gift and talents with us. And hopefully you'll come back at some point and we can have some fun and talk about some other things that you are cooking up in the kitchen. And again, please contact Chef Stevie. She's an excellent chef. She offers classes and we will also post the recipe that she cooked for us today. So I hope you have a wonderful Sunday and be safe and be well. Thanks again.